Um, First thing is, you should definitely be not AFK at the strategy phase, so you have all your items already bought. A lot of times, I prefer to have like 2 sources of regen, plus like a magic wand build if I know, like especially in your bracket, it's probably like, I mean the meta right now is dual lanes. Dual lanes like every game. So what a lot of people do is like a Salve Tango Stout Shield with a Mango Branch, and then finish the magic wand in the side shop. And the Quelling Blade is viable there as well, so it's definitely something that you should look to do, in my opinion. Especially since Jug as a quite a mana intensive hero early on. If you want to do more than like 2 spins in the entire laning stage, you're going to need to have a source of mana regeneration. Yeah, and spinning like that just to secure 40 gold rune isn't good, especially since you could have, especially if you had more regen, you could have just got it. I mean, if you're really scared, you could have waited until the magic missile was in the air and then spin to dodge it. But now you've got one more cast to spin in the laning stage pretty much. I guess it's pointless for me to really talk about lane equilibrium since you've got a Lich. She'll constantly push towards you. Since you did go this build, I would just focus on getting your own last hits. Not taking unnecessary harass. You only have 3 tangos for your HP regen, and you have no mana regen. So you just gotta be pretty careful. I guess using spin there was actually fine, since you haven't had to use it immediately. So your mana is going to regen up. Alright, I actually take it back. I do like that spin usage, because that's 40 gold to your whole team. But still, you should have waited until this was in the air before you casted it. It's not like he's going to silence you at level 1. Alright, this is really bad. And this is actually dumpstering your gyro right now. And is your courier actually getting killed? And your courier gets killed. That was really, really bad. You can buy boots right here in the side shop. Like, you shouldn't be using courier as a side laner. Really, I mean, a good rule of thumb is before 3 minutes. But also, you could say, does that look? This is a gyro versus a Clinks. He can't ferry himself regen. Like, that. Bringing yourself boots, especially since it's an item that you can just get in the side shop, it just lost you the mid lane. As long as this Clinks isn't way worse than the gyro. Now, I could see bringing yourself the 2 blades of attack and then finishing up the boots in the side shop. If your mid laner just used the courier and isn't going to need it for a bit while it's still walking, I could see doing that. I could see bringing yourself the, and you shouldn't bring yourself this either, because you can buy this from the side shop. You should be bringing yourself, like, extra clarities, extra, tangos, something like that. You should never, ever, ever bring yourself something from the courier that you can get from the side shop. I would definitely recommend familiarizing yourself with all the items in the side shop to make sure that you don't make that mistake. Even if you're having a rough lane and it's difficult to get to the side shop to get your boots or get your magic wand or whatever, you can just walk through this path to get to it. You don't have to go through the lane, you can go through the trees. I think you don't put enough emphasis on denying creeps. Yeah, I mean, right now you only have 6 deny. Like, your last hitting in general, you should, work on it. Like, just, open a lobby by yourself and try to maintain creep equilibrium, and by that I mean, don't let yourself push into the tower, don't let it push back into your tower, just try to maintain it somewhere like right here. Through last hitting and denying. And you should really focus on, like, getting a deny is almost more important than getting a last hit right now, because I mean, obviously getting a last hit for yourself is really important, and you shouldn't be missing any last hits that are available to you, but when you deny a creep, you only give 25% of the experience to the enemy. So if you're focusing more on denying, you could have like 15 or maybe even 20 denies here. And this guy wouldn't be the same level as you. He'd be a level behind, or he'd be 2 levels behind, depending on how many denies you got out. I'd like to see you bring yourself your... So you're actually going to... Okay, you do bring yourself a clarity, which I like. But you're not bringing yourself a, like an extra set of tangos. You're not bringing yourself the Aquila. You're ignoring the magic wand. And I feel like it's really important to have magic wand in Dota now. Just because of how good of a laning item it is. Like, it's pretty much almost, it's pretty much like what a ring of regen, like a regular ring of regen used to be for 400 gold. But you also get that +2 to all stats. But you also get the full capabilities of a magic wand. And you should definitely just practice playing jugger more, because you should have been able to dodge that stun. And here's the impact of not having a magic wand. You're not able to get your Blade Fury off there and casting your ult. You actually, unless you had 310 mana, which is like this, like 95% mana, you're not going to be able to cast both of your offensive spells. This one being offensive and defensive. I mean, both are offensive and whatever. What I'm getting at is, like, you can't even cast every single one of your spells with the amount of stats that you have right now. You get from Aquila, you get that 3 intelligence, and from Magic Wand, you get 2 intelligence, I believe. Yeah. So that's 5 extra in. That makes a difference. I'm telling you, it makes a difference. Right now, so that 5 extra int, how much mana do you get per int? I think like 17 or something. That just makes you much more able to cast all your spells, especially with the regeneration that you get from the Aquila. So ignoring the Aquila and the Magic Wand, it's actually slowing down your Battle Fury timing, because you wouldn't have died there if you had mana to cast your spin. And you actually farm so much faster with that Aquila, and you fight so much better with that Magic Wand and the Aquila, because this is 19 damage. It's nothing to scoff at. Gives 2 armor to your creeps as well. Like, you, as a side laner, you don't really want to be pushing into the enemy tower without a catapult nowadays. You just don't do enough damage to take down a tower. Plus, like, people have gotten so much better at playing around catapult timings lately. So what I'm trying to say is, in order to take, like, your conditions for taking down this tower or doing damage to this tower is having that Aquila with that slight extra tank ability for your creeps, as well as having a catapult, because those catapults do 50 damage per hit to fucking towers. So, it's fine that right now that you're pushing out the lane, because you want to push out the lane and have your creeps die to this tower, and then farm out these 2 camps if you can. Kind of difficult now that Night Stalker's here. As long as Night Stalker's showing in lane right now, though, you can just farm these camps. Get the bounty runes, maybe. You don't really have to be scared. Like, the only people you have to be scared of in this game, the Clinks once he gets farm, but he doesn't have farm yet. You need to be scared of the Chronosphere, but they don't have a ton of damage in Chrono, unless they have a Clinks there as well, I guess. So, your main threat, I think, at least at nighttime, is this Night Stalker. He might sneak up on you with this silence and slow combination. Like a Night Stalker +1 can kill you. So while he's in lane just farming, that means you're safe to just go over here and farm these camps, instead of just sitting here scared in lane doing nothing. You could even be showing up to this fight, like, when you want to rotate as a carry and go to another lane to just fight with your team. Like, this would be a prime example of a fight where you could fight with your team, maybe get a kill or two, and then push down the tower as a team. But instead you're just getting bullied by this Night Stalker, and continuing from what I was getting at earlier is sort of the timing that you want to go for to leave your lane is when there's not an enemy catapult in your lane, and you've got a good matchup in fights to come, and you've got your shit off cooldown. Like, you don't want to come if you don't have Omni Slash, for instance, in this early game. Pretty much in general, Jug wants to fight around his Omni Slash timing. So what you could have done is TP top, used Omni Slash, maybe spun down the person you Omni Slashed. Then like, you could have Omni Slashed the CM, for instance, and she would have died. I don't know, I feel like I'm just going on and on. Might as well move on. Yeah, you're just... And you finally, after like what seemed like decades of just sitting in lane passive, not doing anything, you finally move to the jungle. You just have to recognize that if Night Stalker's in this lane farming, then that means he's no threat to you on the map. Now that he's missing from the map, what you can do is just spin down the wave, make sure the catapult dies, move on somewhere else. Like, you could be TPing top here and assisting in this push. You've got a catapult. Like, ideally you would want their catapult to go down here before you rotate. But there's no chrono up here. And you kind of missed the timing here. Because, like, your catapult died. And it looks like your catapult bot is still alive, right? So, pretty much you want to use and your lich just denies the fucking catapult. You want to use catapult timings to, rotate around the map. You want to use them to take fights. You want to use them to push towers. Just doing it without doing any of those things without a catapult makes it more difficult because the enemy will have a catapult. That was a good fight. Your team showed up and you cleaned up, and then now you're pushing the tower. And you don't actually get the tower because none of you at any point in time actually attacked the tower. Instead of diving with Omni Slash here, what you should have done was just spin down the creeps and hit this tower. It's better for you to bait them in when you have your cooldowns. Bait them in, kill off the creep waves, spin down the creep waves, set yourself up so that you can have a solo Omni Slash. So you don't have to worry about bouncing into creeps. Hit the tower to bait them into you. then Omni Slash and kill them with your team instead of diving the tier 2. That way you could have gotten the tower and you could have gotten the kill, instead of just getting the kill and possibly getting rotated on by a chronosphere and not even getting the tower. I like that you ignored these two camps and came down here to try to get this farm. But you didn't end up getting it, you just gave it to your Sand King, which he already has a blink. He doesn't need to be taking farm from right in front of your face. And it doesn't really matter what he thinks is the right move. You should just be taking that farm from him right in front of his face. And since it was daytime, I think instead of doing this camp, you should have gone to the next one, and then the next one. And then you could have, like you see Void top, right? The only way for them to cancel your TP, besides a level 25 Venge, is Chronosphere. So as long as you're seeing this Void on the map, you can just push out waves and attack towers with impunity, as long as you're not getting silenced from the fog somehow or something. I think you're definitely going for the right idea here. Manta style against this silence, Manta style against Frostbite, dodge the magic missile, purge the Orchid. Here you should have cleared this wave before TPing. And you actually end up TPing and not even getting your Omni Slash off. So what you want to do is push in the wave as fast as possible before you hook up with your team as a carry. And then while you're about to start hitting the tower, you gauge whether you should show up. And that means, do you have your cooldowns? Are enemies rotating up here? Are you going to be able to TP in and then catch them with your spells instead of them just running away? You need to think about these things before you TP, instead of getting much needed damage on this T2 tower down here. And you really do have to worry about this Clinks, just because you're so underfarmed. This Clinks Faceless Void combination is really potent. Just because you didn't... I mean, I don't want to blame it all on Aquila and Magic Wand, but you would have gotten more kills, you would have gotten more farm, and you would have gotten a faster Battle Fury timing if you got Aquila Magic Wand here. And getting that faster Battle Fury timing, and dying less, and doing more damage to towers, and having more mana, equates to a faster Manta style timing, which means this Clink's Orchid becomes a bit more useless against you, which enables you to split push more and accelerates your farm even further. So I just want to make the claim here that your item choice in the laning stage is really having a ripple effect on the rest of your gameplay. It's really good. Your team just cleaned up and their team ran in one by one, just died. So now, whoever pinged this tower... Oh no, that's a defense. Somebody pinged that tower to defend it. You really should get this tower off of this. Void is respawning with Chrono though, but he's not going to have the rest of his team for backups. Don't really have to be afraid of the Chrono without there being a Clinks. He just doesn't have, you know, the most damage in the whole world. And instead of just sitting around here, you should have ran top, pushed out this lane. You just need to, in the mid game, and you should have been doing this much earlier. In the mid game, especially when you don't have your cooldowns, you just need to address lanes. You just need to push it out, push this lane out, farm these camps maybe, and you're just doing it out of order here. You push out the lane, then you farm the camps. Or you push out the lane, and if their cooldowns aren't off cooldown, you just hit the tower, and then you TP out. See, you don't have your Omni Slash here. You could have been hitting this top T2 the entire time, and what would have happened is you would have farmed your Manta. What would have happened is they probably TP back for you. What would have happened is your team would have had a better chance at this fight. And instead, the creep wave is still here, it's not pushing in, and they'll probably prevent this tower from getting too much damage put onto it. You could have even pushed in this tower and then TP'd down here to deal with this creep wave. Or if the fight was happening closer to this tower and your Omni Slash was off cooldown, you could have TP'd to this tower, you could have TP'd to this shrine even, as sort of a middle ground in between this bottom tower and this mid lane. So pretty much a lot of the time you have heroes that deal with pushes, and then you have heroes that deal with creep waves. And what I mean by that is, if you're a Juggernaut and they're just here as a team and they're wailing on this tower, are you going to be able to clear out this creep wave safely and repel them off the tower? No. So what you do instead to achieve the same effect is you split push the map. You kill these creep waves on the opposite side of the map, or on at the mid lane, or whatever, just away from there. You split the map, you get farm, and what ends up happening is either they rotate back, and then you call for your team to take the fight once they've rotated back a couple euros, or you take the tower. And then you're trading when they're pushing with your entire team, but it's just you taking this trade. So what ends up happening is the enemy team loses tempo by using more of their heroes to achieve the same effect that you did by yourself. And I'm not about to say that you can out-push a Clinks, for instance. But if you have Manta, and you juke into the trees, then you can... and you like healing ward in the trees as well, you can TP out in front of a Clinks' face. It's not impossible to TP away from a Clinks, for instance. And your team just takes another fight where they just swipe them. I don't know how you lose this game. I guess you just get split pushed by Clinks or something. Or this Void just gets really good Chronos. So, while I think it's good that you have the idea of going for this tower, I think what actually should have happened was you go for 2 towers. Or are you actually going high ground? If you go high ground here, it's a different story. But if you're only going T2, bottom, there's no reason why you couldn't have TP'd back here, pushed out this lane all the way, got this tier 2 mid as well. I think your gyro Pudge has enough. And Sand King actually had the right idea where he pushed top at the same time. And he's getting damage on this top tower. So, what I think you, specifically you, should have done in this case is they don't need you to push the wave all the way down, all the way over here. There's already a gyro in the lane to push the lane like that. So what you should have done is TP'd back, pushed this lane out all the way to the tower, then you could have came and finished off this. But then, mid lane, you've got a creep wave like right here or something, and you get this tower too because Clinks was still respawning. So you just didn't get as much out of the map while this Clinks was dead, and I think we both agree that he's their main source of damage. You just didn't squeeze the maximum amount of shit that you could have out of that Clinks' death. There's really nothing for me to say about that. I think most of your problems could be solved by, instead of being at the fight from the start, you just split push and then show up to the fight, because you'd have so much more farm if you were playing like that, and I dare say you wouldn't have as many deaths, and I would say that you would have more kills. And also, if you don't ignore these small items, you gotta think of it like this, right? Every item you get increases the speed that you farm. So the Aqua increases the speed that you farm way more than, say, one of the rings from a Perseverance does. Like, the magic one increases, like, it might save your life, it might allow you to cast Healing Ward and save a teammate, it might allow you to cast Spin and get a kill. Like, missing out on this magic wand is just so detrimental. And missing out on the Agua is also detrimental. And maybe you're thinking, the gyro already has an Aquila, why should I get one? Well, you're not always going to be right next to the gyrocopter. You're the like, you guys are the 1 and 2 positions here. That means oftentimes you're not going to be with each other. You're going to be like on opposite sides of the map a lot of times. So it really doesn't make any difference, like, if he has an Aquila, whether you buy it or not, or if he has a drum and you feel like going drum, it doesn't make a difference because it's just such a good item, the Aquila. It's one of the most slot efficient items there is. Or not slot efficient, but stat efficient. You actually don't have the mana to Omni Slash there. If you still had an Aqua instead of the Stout Shield, I dare say you would have had enough. From this point on, I'm just going to speed up the game to ×4. I feel like I already pretty much explained what led to this loss, at least from the perspective of you playing Juggernaut. Yeah, so definitely just work on recognizing. I mean, I can tell you right now, I can't tell you for like every single hero and every single scenario, like when you should fight and when you should farm. But on Jug, it's pretty clear cut. Just split push, especially if they don't have any stun that goes through magic immunity. Just split push, and if you have Omni Slash up, that's where you can either, if they only rotate like one back to try to stop you from taking the tower, you just Omni Slash and kill them and take the tower. If they rotate a couple heroes back, maybe what you actually do is TP to the fight and use Omni Slash in the fight. Or maybe they're diving a tower. That's where you TP back and use Omni Slash in the fight, etc., etc. Just make it your priority to first deal with the creep wave. Any creep waves that are pushing onto your side of the map that aren't being like actively pushed in by the entire enemy team and they're hitting a tower, you should just go to that creep wave, push it out as far as you can, and then you can, from there you can go into the jungle and farm a couple camps while you're on your way to maybe the mid lane that's right next to the jungle after you're done jungling, and you push that lane out. Or maybe on the opposite side of the map there's a huge creep wave pushing into your tower right then. That's where you TP there and take that farm. But if your GPM was up, like, and I really think if you just changed your playstyle a little bit, you could have had like 200 more GPM than this, and you could have had a much better chance in this game. Like the way that you beat a Clinks and a Void as a Juggernaut is by being a better player than both of them combined. Pretty much. I don't know. It's kind of hard to beat these guys together against Jug, but you know, keep in mind you've got 4 other heroes on your team.